I'm 31, been married for 6 years, and until last week, I thought I had the kind of life people envy. We own a charming old house just outside a small town, one of those quirky fixer-uppers with creaky floors and too many doors. We bought it 2 years ago, intending to flip it over time. My husband, Matt, is super handy, and I work remotely, so we figured it'd be a fun project. It hasn't always been easy, lots of late nights patching holes or rewiring ancient light fixtures, but it's been ours. Or at least, I thought it was. The first weird thing happened about 3 weeks ago. I was home alone one afternoon, on a call for work, when I heard what sounded like a thud inside the wall behind our living room bookshelf. It was soft, muffled, but enough to make me pause. I muted the call and listened. Nothing. I told myself it was probably just the house settling. Old houses make strange noises, right? But then, it happened again. 2 days later. Same spot. Same sound. And then again, late at night while I was reading in bed. That time, it was more than a thud, it was a dragging noise. Like something being moved across a rough floor. But it came from behind the wall. A solid wall. One we never touched during renovations. I brought it up to Matt, and he brushed it off. Said maybe an animal got in through the attic or something, but that he'd take a look soon. But he didn't. Days passed, and the noise continued. Each time, a little louder. A little closer. Almost like it wanted me to notice. I couldn't let it go. So I did something I probably shouldn't have. I moved the bookshelf. And behind it was a door. A door that shouldn't exist. A narrow, old wooden thing flush with the wall, painted the same color so it blended in perfectly. No handle. No hinges visible. Just a faint outline. I stood there, staring at it, heart pounding. Because Matt never mentioned a hidden door. Never. And I've helped paint that wall myself. I didn't open it right away. But I will. I couldn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that door. Flat against the wall, silent and still, like it had been waiting for someone to find it. The next morning, while Matt was out running errands, I went back to the living room. Moved the bookshelf again, sat cross-legged in front of the door, and just stared. I ran my fingers along the seams, trying to find a way in. It didn't have a knob or keyhole, just a small, shallow indentation near the bottom, almost like a finger grip. So I pulled. Nothing. I grabbed a butter knife from the kitchen and tried prying it open. Still nothing. It didn't budge, not even a wiggle. But then, I remembered something. When we first moved in, we found this old tin box in the attic filled with random junk, rusty nails, dead spiders, faded receipts, and one very strange key. It looked handmade, crooked, almost ornamental. I'd kept it because I thought it was cool. Tossed it in my craft drawer and forgot about it. I ran upstairs, dug through the drawer, and there it was. Heavy. Cold. Still coated in a fine layer of attic dust. On a hunch, I brought it back downstairs, slid it along the seams of the door, and wouldn't you know it, there was a tiny hole hidden at the top corner, disguised under a warped piece of trim. Barely visible. I pressed the key in. It clicked. And I swear to God, the temperature in the room dropped by 10 degrees. The door creaked open, slow, reluctant, like it hadn't been touched in decades. Behind it, there was no room. Not at first, just a narrow staircase, descending into darkness. I didn't go down. Not yet. Because that's when I heard the front door slam. Matt was home. And I hadn't told him I'd found the door. Matt called out from the front hallway like nothing was wrong. His usual cheerful tone, asking if I wanted anything from the store next time, talking about dinner plans. Meanwhile, I was standing frozen in front of a door I wasn't supposed to find, next to a staircase that seemed to breathe cold air up my spine. I kicked the bookshelf back into place as fast as I could, shoving it up against the wall like my life depended on it. My hands were shaking. When he walked into the living room, I forced a smile. Said I'd been reorganizing the books, didn't like how they looked. He didn't question it. Just nodded, walked into the kitchen, and started unloading groceries like nothing was off. I watched him for a while. I don't know what I was looking for, some twitch, some sign that he knew what I'd found. But there was nothing. Just Matt being Matt. Whistling some stupid jingle, making himself a sandwich. Except, that night, I noticed he double-locked the front door. And the side door. And the basement. And when he came upstairs to bed, he did something he never does, he turned the lock on our bedroom door too. Clicked it shut like it was routine. I asked him why. He looked at me for a second too long, then shrugged. Just felt like it, he said. But I could tell he was lying. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling while Matt slept soundly next to me, snoring like nothing in the world could touch him. I kept replaying it in my head, the key, the door, the stairs, the cold. I didn't sleep. And the next day? He was gone when I woke up. No note. No text. Just gone. Matt didn't come back that whole day. No texts. No calls. I tried to tell myself he just went to clear his head or run errands, but deep down, I knew he was hiding something, and I wasn't going to wait around anymore. So I moved the bookshelf. Again. The hidden door was still ajar, just like I'd left it. I stared at the staircase for a long time, heart pounding, palms sweating. But I grabbed a flashlight, took a deep breath, and started down. The stairs groaned under my weight, and dust swirled in the flashlight beam like it had been sealed off for years. But it didn't smell old. No mildew. No musty air. It smelled, faintly, like lemon cleaner. That's what really set off the alarm in my head. Someone had been down there recently. At the bottom of the stairs, the space opened into a small concrete room. Completely windowless. The walls were painted a pale yellow, which might have been cheery if not for how bare and cold everything felt. A single chair sat in the center. Next to it, a table. On the table, folders. Stacks of them. I picked one up. My name was written on it in bold black marker. Inside were pages and pages of notes. Handwritten. Some in Matt's handwriting, some typed. Lists of my daily habits. What time I woke up. What I ate. How often I left the house. What days I worked out. Everything. I flipped to the last page. The most recent note was from 4 days ago. Still hasn't found the door. My blood ran cold. Because now, someone knew I had. I don't remember sitting down, but suddenly I was in the chair, clutching the folder like it might disappear if I let go. My own life laid out in lists. My movements, my moods, what I wore, what I said. I was being watched, and not just recently. These notes dated back months. Some even referenced events from over a year ago. Things I barely remembered. But that wasn't even the worst part. Because there wasn't just one folder. There were 6, each one labeled with a different name. I recognized 2 of them, previous owners of the house. We'd met one couple briefly during the sale. They moved out in a hurry. Said they got a job offer across the country. The other set of names, strangers to me. But suddenly, I wasn't so sure. The third folder I opened was labeled Anna C. I flipped through it. The handwriting changed. This time it wasn't Matt's. The notes were colder. Coded, even. Times, routines, behavioral patterns. Some entries circled in red with little notes in the margins. Too curious. Avoid for now. Monitor responses. It read like someone tracking lab rats. Every folder ended the same way, abruptly. Final pages scribbled, dates missing. Some with torn edges, others left blank. It was like whoever was documenting them just stopped. No explanation. I suddenly had the horrible thought, maybe they didn't move. Maybe they didn't get job offers. Maybe they never left at all. And then I noticed something on the back wall. A vent, covered with a rusted grate. Barely big enough to crawl through, but there was something behind it. A glow. Faint, red. Like the standby light of a machine. I stood up, flashlight aimed, and that's when I heard the sound. Above me. The floorboards creaked. Someone was walking across the living room. And the bookshelf? It hadn't been moved back. My body went rigid. I turned off the flashlight and stood in complete darkness, trying not to breathe. Every creak above me was deafening, slow, deliberate. Someone was pacing. Whoever it was, they were in no rush. I reached for the key still in my pocket, just in case I had to lock the door from this side. But there was no lock. Of course there wasn't. I couldn't see much, but I could hear. The footsteps stopped. Then silence. That awful kind of silence where your ears start inventing sounds just to fill the space. I waited. And then, suddenly, a thud. A sharp slam above, like the bookshelf had just been shoved back against the wall. They'd found the open door. My brain went into overdrive. I had 2 choices, go up and face whoever was out there, or crawl through the rusted vent and see where it led. Neither felt good. But staying put didn't seem like an option either. I ran to the grate, dropped to my knees, and yanked at it. Rust flaked off in my hands, but it didn't give. I dug into my back pocket and used the key as leverage, jamming it between the screws and twisting as hard as I could. The metal groaned. One screw snapped. Then another. From above, I heard the unmistakable sound of the hidden door creaking open. Panic surged through me. I gave the vent one last heave, and it popped free. I crawled in, the cold metal scraping against my arms. The tunnel was tighter than I expected, barely enough space to move forward. But that faint red light ahead? It was getting brighter. Behind me, the basement door creaked. Footsteps on the stairs. They were coming down. And I was running out of tunnel. The tunnel opened up abruptly, one last scrape of my shoulders, and I tumbled out onto cold concrete. I scrambled to my feet, wiping blood from my elbow, and froze. I was in a room I didn't know existed. It was perfectly square, windowless, and sterile. Walls painted stark white, floor freshly mopped. There was a red light blinking steadily from a device in the ceiling, casting everything in an eerie glow. It looked like a motion sensor, or maybe a camera. In the center of the room was a single object, a filing cabinet. Matte black, spotless. The kind that locks with a key. But it was already open. Drawers slightly ajar, folders inside fanned out like someone had just rifled through them. I approached slowly, glancing back at the vent I'd crawled through, still open, but leading back into darkness. I reached into the top drawer and pulled out the first folder. My stomach dropped. Inside was a photo of me. Not just any photo, one I'd never seen before. I was asleep in bed, hair messy, mouth slightly open. The timestamp in the corner said it was taken 3 months ago. I flipped the page. Another photo, this time, I was in the shower. The angle was from above. I dropped the folder. There were dozens like it, labeled with other women's names. Some I recognized from the folders downstairs, some I didn't. I realized then, this wasn't about me snooping where I didn't belong. This was about me being next. Behind me, the vent slammed shut. And I heard a voice. From the shadows. Matt, I told you not to go digging. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. My knees locked in place as Matt's voice echoed off the white walls, calm ye too calm. He stepped into view slowly, wearing the same sweatshirt he left in that morning. No panic. No shock. Just this quiet, disappointed look on his face like I was the one who had betrayed him. I asked the only thing my brain could form into words. What is this? He looked around the room like he was proud of it. Like it was a gallery, not a nightmare. He told me it started before we even met. That this house wasn't just some fixer-upper, it was chosen. Purposefully. Because it came with potential. I asked him again, what kind of potential? That's when he said it, control. Matt had been watching people long before I entered the picture. Not random people, women. Women who were too independent, too smart, too unpredictable. He'd find them, learn them, wear masks for them until they trusted him, and then he'd bring them here. One by one. He never hurt them, he claimed. Never laid a finger. Just observed. Documented. Controlled their environment. Their habits. Their minds. Like it was all some twisted experiment in behavioral psychology. And every time they got too close to figuring it out, like me now, he moved on. But with me? He said it had been different. I thought I could keep you longer. That's when I noticed it, on the wall behind him, half hidden behind a panel. A door. With a bolt. And something behind it was moving. Scratching. Thumping. I looked at him, heart racing, and whispered, who's in there? Matt just smiled. You're not the first to ask. The sound behind that bolted door was no longer subtle. It was frantic, scraping, pounding, like someone using their entire body to throw against it. Matt turned to look at the door, casually, like someone glancing at a noisy neighbor, then back to me with that same hollow smile. He said she was the one who didn't cooperate. The one who refused to follow the pattern. The one who broke the rules. I couldn't breathe. My skin felt like it was crawling off my bones. I asked, choking on the words, how long she'd been in there. His answer? Long enough. I took a step back, eyes darting toward the vent, but it was already sealed, latched from the outside. I was trapped. And Matt knew it. He didn't threaten me, didn't raise his voice. That made it worse. The calm, collected mask he wore cracked for just a second when he said, you were supposed to be better. That's when the banging behind the door stopped. Silence. Then, a voice. Raspy. Weak. But unmistakably human. Help me. My blood turned to ice. Matt turned toward the sound, his jaw tight. And for the first time, I saw something new in his eyes. Fear. He stepped between me and the door and said I needed to leave it alone. But I couldn't. I lunged before I could stop myself, grabbing the nearest thing I could find, a rusted metal pipe leaning against the wall, and swung it hard. It connected with his arm. He staggered, not expecting a fight. I didn't wait. I grabbed the bolt. And pulled. The bolt slid back with a screech that echoed through the room like it had been waiting years to be freed. I yanked the door open, and the smell hit first. Damp. Earthy. Rotting. Then I saw her. Thin, pale, sunken eyes blinking against the sudden light. She was curled in a corner on a filthy mattress, her wrists bruised from rope or cuffs long since removed. But she was alive. Barely. She looked at me like she couldn't believe I was real. Behind me, Matt growled something, scrambling to his feet, but the second he lunged, she moved. Faster than I expected, she launched herself forward, not at me. At him. He shouted, but it was already too late. Her fists landed wild and desperate, years of fury bursting out all at once. I could have stopped her, but I didn't. I backed out of the room, dragging the pipe with me, and slammed the heavy metal door shut. I slid the bolt, locked it from the outside. Then I ran. Out through the tunnel. Up the stairs. Into the blinding light of our living room, where everything looked so normal it made me sick. I called the police from the neighbor's front yard. They didn't believe me, until they went inside. They found her. They found everything. Matt was arrested that night. The files. The cameras. The room behind the wall. It all became part of the investigation. And that woman? Her name was Elena. She'd been missing for over a year. Her family thought she was dead. But she wasn't. She survived. Just like me. It's been 3 months now. I've moved. Different state. Different house. Still haven't unpacked all the boxes. Sometimes I wake up gasping for air, convinced I hear footsteps above me, or the scraping of a bolt sliding shut. But it passes. I'm in therapy. I'm healing. Matt's awaiting trial. They're saying he could be connected to more disappearances. Maybe even more hidden rooms in other houses. I still don't know how deep it goes. Sometimes, late at night, I think about the red blinking light in that hidden room. And I wonder if, somewhere, it's still blinking, still watching, still waiting.